Welcome back to um, Monday morning, um, August 25th. The weekly news, since I haven't been here for a while. We've talked about global warming, space, and Muscovy. Israel's next. Um, yeah, there's not much to say. It's genocide, um, ethnic cleansing, apartheid. Um, there should be new refugee camps, but they should be in Israel proper. Uh, the Palestinians fled from Israel, so the natural place for refugee camps from Gaza should be in Israel. Okay, they shouldn't export these people. They live there. The Canaanites. They have as much right to Canaan as anybody else. They have the same bloodline as any other Jew, except that they changed their religion, like I did, or like my family did. I may actually go back to Judaism just because, although I'm all for most of the Gospels, but as far as the church hierarchy, no. You know, um, Reformed Judaism works better than the Roman Catholic Church. So, and the practices of home worship, the Shabbos meal, um, on which the Eucharist is really based. It's the bread and the wine is a Shabbos thing. Um, it's not necessarily it's not just a Passover thing, um, or maybe it's mini Passover, but it's just a human thing. The bread and the wine, and you can trust individuals to consecrate bread and wine, challah and wine, challah and grape juice. For those of us who don't drink, um, and then unleavened bread just during the Passover, but yeah, because the Eucharist is not an icon. We didn't. Jesus never said, if after you consecrate this bread, put it someplace. It's sacred because it's God. It's like, no, that's turning into an idol. The last person who would ever want his body turned to an idol was Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ. In fact, rumor has it that his bones were found and they're now in the Israel Museum because there were two tombs, two family tombs in Arimathea. One was the family of Joseph of Arimathea, and the other was the family of his cousin Mary, and her second husband, and her oldest son, and her next son James, daughter-in-law. And just there's like a family burial that was found with the only statistically the only names that were there. You got to read James Tabor for this. Um, that are likely to have occurred in the same way. It's just unlikely that it was any other collection. And these are common. They have common names, but um, yeah, that's in the odds in that size of society of it being um, in the same configuration is not as huge as people think at the same time among Canaanites of the period. So yeah, especially since they're related to Joseph of Arimathea. You know, Jesus was in the priestly caste because his mother was. Um, Zechariah, Arimathea, Joseph of Arimathea. Yeah, they were temple priests. Members of the Sanhedrin. So yeah, um, although they were had moved from being Sadducees to believing in the resurrection. So the resurrection is, at the time of Jesus, the resurrection was actually, the idea that you didn't just sleep in the dust, that you actually ascended to God, not your body, but your soul. That was new then. For some, it's new now, although most people kind of go with that. And in fact, if you look at the book of Luke, it's reincarnation. That wasn't a common belief when Jesus was around, but the Gospel according to Luke says that Elijah was reincarnated as John the Baptist, and so. And, even say that John the Baptist will come again as one of the two witnesses. Maybe. The end of time, except the end of time is the end of your time. But Israel, back to Israel. Oh, goodness. Yeah. At my last nerve on these people need to go back to Israel. They need to be resettled in Israel. And then if you want to make Gaza, great tree, olive groves and all that, fine. Beaches, yeah, why not? As long as the Palestinians can return home. Because they're Jews. They're Canaanites. They just are the ones that, they converted to Christianity when Philip converted Samaritans, and then, and then Constantinople. Then most of my ancestors especially were taken out. And the ones who left them, Mizrahi, some stayed Jews, but a lot became Christians. The people there, the Canaanites, became Christians, because not all Canaanites were, even back in the day, were religious. I mean, it was kind of a national religion. It wasn't as much a personal religion. I'm sure there was as many people who just didn't care, who lived in Canaan and Israel. I doubt that the religious practice was universal in ancient Palestine. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, because it's because that's not how people roll. It's for some people, but it's not for everybody. People like brunch on Sunday more, especially if they don't have to go. If there's no social pressure to go, most people would say, me and God are fine. It's what I've been doing. So, ethnically they're the same. So let them come back. My view is that Palestinians should say, okay, we converted before, we'll convert back to Judaism. Yeah, why not? We converted when the Arabs came. We converted when Rome Christianized. We converted when Philip converted Samaria. Or we stayed Jewish and we're the Mizrahi. We converted when the Babylonian people came back from the Babylonian exile. There were people there. We converted when David and Solomon were around, when Joshua and the judges were around. There were no rabbis during the age of the judges. They were Canaanites practicing Canaanite religion, having their idols, doing their thing. So, there's no rational reason for what Netanyahu's doing. And it's certainly not according to Torah. And here's the thing. This famine, as it is a famine, you can tell the objectivity of the apologists for Israel, the people. Now, there's this guy who's a tour guide who still defends what's going on. It's like, no. At some point, if you're really objective, you've got to have a line to say, okay, I'm not going to believe the line. I'm not going to transmit the line that Netanyahu is saying. This is enough. A good Jew says that. A good ethnic Jew like me, even if I'm patrilineally Jewish, says that. Enough is enough. No more shall you do this sin. Because if I don't warn you and you die, it's on me. If I do warn you and you die, it's on you. Bibi's going to die. His way of life is going to die. Zionism, the way he's practicing it, is going to die. God will not let it succeed. So, when you talk about a just God, the just God doesn't care what you read or the porn sites you watch. He cares about how you treat people. So, yeah, the justice of God demands that the Palestinians be treated justly. It's nothing about masturbation. It's nothing about drug use or gluttony or any of those other lovely, lovely personal failings that are just personal. They're not cosmic. The cosmic crimes are what they're doing, that violate Torah are the molestation of the aliens. So, again, if you're an apologist for Israel and you're still doing it, even after there's famine and genocide, and, yes, if you're better off living in Israel as an Israeli Arab than where ISIS can get you, but that's a low bar. Okay, it's still apartheid. So at some point, if you've got any credibility as a Jew, you've got to say enough is enough. Okay, so speaking of enough, we've got Donald Trump. Oh, he's sick. People are saying he's got congestive heart failure. He probably does. I mean, he's looking bad. And he's not any crazier than he used to be. He speaks off the cuff all the time. He did when he was president the first time. They just didn't let him say anything, especially officially. But now he's got people who let him be Trump, so, he riffs. I don't think he's riffing any worse than he was. That's what people say who watch him, who know him. It's like he's not getting worse. He's just always been that way. We're just noticing it now. What is different is that he's physically deteriorating. The ankles may just be that, or it may be, and he plays better tennis than I do, or used to. I've never played good tennis. The fact that he could play tennis, play golf, I can't do these things. And I'm bigger than he is, but I'm also, if you've read my books, I'm a little smarter too. I'm going to be a better president, but regardless, as old people go, he wasn't in that bad shape. He is now. And, and about the makeup, and the hair especially, they say he's, maybe losing his hair. Yeah, that's a problem for him because he had, the word is that he has skull reduction surgery, which means the back of his head doesn't grow hair. It just doesn't. Which is why he wears it. He wears his hair, past his collar, which is not something that adults do usually, but he does because, he can't show the back of his head. It's it's not pretty. Those times where the wind has caught it, yeah, it's not pretty. It's frickin' Anakin Skywalker. But I never make fun of his hair because that would be making fun of somebody with a disability. And as somebody who has disabilities and all kinds of little diseases, that's wrong. And if you're making fun of Trump's hair, you're a bad person. Just like if you're, doing genocide in Israel. There's between good and a bad person, people who do things that are unjust and gross, and people who do things that avoid being that way. That's the good and the bad person. The people who mess with talk about his hair, and the bone spurs even, because that was probably a cover story for the spine reduction. You can't go to war, with what he had. So yeah, when your skull's been knit together a second time, yeah, you can't do anything. You can't really, wear a helmet and trot around Southeast Asia. So yeah, I have no qualms about the fact that he didn't serve in Vietnam. And I have a serious problem with people who make fun of his hair. Yeah, that's part 2. Part 3 in a second.